Excited to introduce you to this next author, Toni Jackson. She's written an important book, Secrets Within the Soul. And so much is wrapped up into this that can help teenagers, pre-teenagers, when you're talking about sex trafficking, date rape, terrible, terrible things, the selling of human beings. So, Toni, first question, why'd you write this book?
So basically, I have been a social worker for over 12 years. So I encountered a lot of preteens, teens seeing situations when it came to date rape, sex trafficking, runaways, and we also had to have training. And one of the trainings that was offered was the sex trafficking and things of that sort, and sex abuse, which is included in that. And as we continued to move forward, and we saw the teenagers maybe run away or not want to be in placement because it was children and family and youth. And the teenagers wouldn't stay a lot of times because they felt like they had someone that was going to love them. But as you were able to watch, you were able to see a lot of times it was because they thought that person loved them. And it was someone that was giving them money and things of that sort, which equaled to the things that we were taught about with trafficking.
Is it worse than people know?
Yes, it is.
And is that because the vulnerability, like you're saying, that, you know, they're young, impressionable, looking for love, don't know, that kind of thing?
You know, that's some of it. Some of it may even be, and when I speak of this topic, I'm thinking worldwide. It may be that the young teenagers may get caught up with who they may feel as though is a girlfriend or a boyfriend, and they have someone that's going to love them. But then you have other places where they may be seen as prey, young prey without any ideas, and they're taken away from their families. Families oftentimes in other countries may sell their children for monies because of their level of poverty, and they may need the monies to be able to support the rest of the family. There are a lot of dynamics behind whether they are knowing or not.
Ooh, what a terrible, terrible thing. And again, the name of the book, Secrets Within the Soul. Tell us more about what's in the book.
Okay, so one of the stories lines is based around date rape. Date rape is something that happens often, and for young adults as well as adults, it may encounter something of the sort, but what happens is that you brush it off because, oh, he didn't mean it, or she didn't mean it, or whoever the person is doing it. But if you are totally against it, that is a no. No is no, and you should never be taken advantage of, especially if it's forced. It should not be. And it should be reported. But the thing is, what I've seen in my research is when going to the authorities, sometimes they may not even believe it, especially if you say it was someone that you knew. And you may not even think of it, but sometimes you can hear women talk about their husbands doing things to them that they did not care to be done. If it's forced, it's not good. Whether it's your husband, whether it's your wife, it's not good. It should be a loving situation. If something is forced, it's not loving. And then on the other side of that, we're talking about the sex trafficking. Sex trafficking is also included within the book, giving you storylines of how individuals can get caught in the trafficking or maybe taken off guard. And then there's information in there that's educational to show how you can get the help that is needed. And what else is in there is talking about once someone is in it, it's hard for them to get out. It may be that their life is on the line Because once someone is having control over you that way, it's a financial issue that you're looking at, and they're afraid to lose that finance that's coming in from doing what they've done in situations with the young women being available to John, so to speak. So the information in there is also talking about how young women, mostly young women in the book, they might fall into eating disorders, mental health issues. There's just so many things that it can come from, but there is information in there to show where they can get help and the steps that they need to take, because sometimes it's a cycle before it's completely caught on as to how they need to do it and what they need to do to stay in that cycle of healing, because that's what it's all about, teaching and showing how you can become healed and get away from it, if at all possible.
We're speaking with Toni Jackson, and again, her book, Secrets Within the Soul. And it's so tough when you think about it. You're talking about cycle, and you saw this as a social worker. It's so tough to break that cycle, isn't it? Yes, it's hard. They may start out, and they may have all good intentions, but they may have some luring. It may be that their John is calling them back on the cell phone, and they feel like they owe them something, because a lot of times there's some mind control going on too. They may have something being said to them, well, you know, I love you. I didn't mean it. Come on back. I miss you. Not realizing that they might be coming back into a trap. And sometimes they may even be trapped by selling the drugs for them that they may have, saying, oh, this money is for you. I'm doing all of this for you, but you owe me. They may even take a jail sentence for them because they said, you owe me. It's a lot of things behind it. So once you get a chance to read, it'll shed some more light on those things that are behind the scenes that not many people were talking about. And that's one of the biggest reasons why I wanted to talk more about it within the book, because I believe the blowhorn needs to be sound. And yes, it is kind of late in the game, so to speak, but for our teenagers that are teenagers right now. But if we can get this out there and keep it moving for the younger children coming up 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 years old and so on, before they get to be teenagers, they have information available to them more readily than is already, because that's not something you can just go in the store and see reading on the shelf in the bookstore, as you may see other topics, the horror movies, the thrillers and things like that. So you don't see it as often. You don't hear it as often. It's almost like it's a taboo. You don't want to talk about it. But if this information can get out there, get into recreation centers, maybe into elementary and junior high schools and high schools where they have auditorium assemblies, having different ones come in and talk to them about it and being more in depth. Just even knowing, the last time I Googled, it said it was an estimated more than 50,000 people a year that are caught in sex trafficking. But they don't have an actual amount of people because it's hard to track, because it's an so to speak, underground thing. It's behind the scenes. It's not something that's up close and personal, up front in your face. And that's pretty much what I would like to see it, to come out into the open where it's more talk about it, so that the individuals and people around us are knowing about it. We can teach our children, we can teach our grandchildren what to look out for, how to be aware, more aware than they are. Young people today are very aware, but make them aware about this type of topic that you don't necessarily hear them talking about. Some of them say, wow, I didn't know that. They need to know. Yeah, they need to know.
To them.
Yeah, they so need to know. Secrets Within the Soul, that's the name of the book. And you're saying this, but what do you hope the big takeaways are for people listening to this that go and get your book?
Well, read it and pass the word. It's not just a thing of buying a book. Take the information, run with it. I can try to be as much of a blowhorn as possible, but let's all be that blowhorn. Let's be helpers with each other, that we can show and take care for enough for these young people and even young adults, that they won't get trapped by not being aware And hopefully maybe it can get into the recreation centers. Maybe we have some more programs out here that are a lot more prevalent and loud spoken, so to speak. Say, okay, this is the program for this trafficking or date rape or something to that effect. Perhaps corporations will get involved where they say, okay, let's do this thing because this is something that's big that we're not talking about. If you think about it, back when Harry Weinstein, to reference that what happened in Hollywood with his actresses, that was very quietly kept until they blew the horn, and then all of a sudden everybody was talking about it. But now it's somewhat of it's kind of quiet again.
Yeah.
It should never get quiet. This is an everyday, all day long situation in many people's lives. It's not one particular time that this happens. It needs to continue moving forward.
Oh, I love what you just said. It should never get quiet. That sums the whole thing up. Toni, where can people get your book?
Okay, right now it's at Barnes & Nobles, and it's also on Amazon.
Amazon. And you have a website. Tell us your website.
Yes, my website is Bam Bam Enterprises. I'm going to spell it for you because it's had different than what normally people would spell. It's BAMBAMENTRPRIZES. BamBamEnterprises.com.
Excellent. Toni, keep blowing that horn, and we'll do it for you as well. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.